Captain Alex Morrison stood at the main window of Terra Nova, watching the strange ship approach Earth's orbital station. The alien vessel looked like a giant crystal floating through space, its surface catching and reflecting starlight in ways that hurt his eyes. After 3 months of careful messages back and forth, the Zephyrians were finally coming to meet humans face to face. Alex had been chosen to lead this meeting because he was calm under pressure. 20 years of deep space exploration had taught him to stay cool when things got weird. But nothing had prepared him for this. The first aliens humanity had ever met, and they were scared of humans. Commander Lisa Bennett walked up beside him, holding a thick folder of notes. She was Earth's best expert on alien life, even though until now she had only studied the idea of aliens, not real ones. Her hands shook slightly as she watched the crystal ship dock with their station. "They really think we're dangerous," Lisa said, reading from her notes. "Their messages keep talking about human hunters and human warriors. They've been watching us for decades, and they think we're some kind of super predator." Alex almost laughed. Super predators? Have they seen how we jump when we watch horror movies? The docking was complete. Airlocks connected the two ships with a soft thud that Alex felt through the floor. In a few minutes, he would be the first human to shake hands with an alien. If they had hands. Dr. Kevin Price joined them at the window. He was a marine biologist who studied sea creatures, and Alex still wasn't sure why he was part of the first contact team. Kevin was excited about everything, always asking questions and poking at things other people left alone. "This is incredible," Kevin said, practically bouncing on his toes. "Do you realize what this means? We're not alone in the universe." "Kevin, focus," Lisa said. "We need to be careful here. These aliens are terrified of us. One wrong move and then they might decide humans are too dangerous to deal with." The main door to the docking bay opened with a hiss. Alex straightened his uniform and walked forward with Lisa and Kevin behind him. The first thing he noticed was how tall the aliens were. The Zephyrians stood almost 8 feet high, their bodies made of what looked like living crystal. Light passed through their skin, making rainbow patterns that shifted as they moved. There were 5 of them. The one in front wore some kind of translator device around its neck. When it spoke, the device turned its clicking sounds into words. "I am Vexahal, speaker for this delegation," the device said in a mechanical voice. "We come in peace, but we come with great caution." Alex stepped forward and held out his hand. "I'm Captain Alex Morrison. Welcome to our space station." Vexahal looked at Alex's outstretched hand like it might bite him. After a long pause, the alien carefully touched Alex's fingers with one crystal finger. The touch was surprisingly warm. "We have prepared gifts," Vexahal said. 2 other aliens stepped forward, carrying cases made of the same crystal material as their bodies. "We offer knowledge of mathematics and art from our world." Lisa opened the human gifts they had prepared. Music players loaded with everything, from classical symphonies to rock songs. Books translated into mathematical symbols that the aliens could read. Paintings and photographs showing Earth's beauty, but Alex could see that the aliens were not relaxed. They stayed close together, like sheep watching for wolves. Every time one of the humans moved quickly, the aliens would tense up. "Please," Alex said, "let's sit and talk. We have so many questions for each other." They moved to a conference room with a large table. The aliens sat on one side, humans on the other. The distance between them felt like a canyon. Vexahal activated a small device that projected holographic images above the table. The first image showed humans hunting animals with spears. The second showed human soldiers in battle. The third showed a boxing match. "We have observed your species for 67 of your years," Vexahal said. "You are persistence hunters. You chase prey until it dies from exhaustion. You fight wars across your entire planet. You compete in combat sports for entertainment. By all measures, humans are apex predators of extraordinary capability. Kevin leaned forward, looking fascinated. Is that really how you see us? Another alien, larger than Vexahol, spoke through the translator. I am Commander Hexstar. Our studies show that humans can run for hours without stopping. You can track prey across great distances. You work together in coordinated attacks. Most disturbing, you seem to enjoy the hunt. Alex looked at Lisa, who was taking notes as fast as she could write. This was not how he had imagined first contact going. We're not trying to hunt you, Alex said carefully. Humans can be peaceful. We want to be friends. But you are predators by nature, Hexstar replied. This cannot be changed. We must be cautious. Kevin had been quiet, but now he spoke up. Can I ask you something? What do you think are the most dangerous predators on Earth? The aliens looked confused by the question. Vexahol consulted with the others in their clicking language before answering. Humans, obviously. You are the dominant species. You have conquered your planet. Kevin smiled, and Alex recognized that look. Kevin had an idea, and his ideas usually led to interesting places. What if I told you that humans aren't even close to being Earth's most dangerous predators? Kevin said that the aliens' crystal bodies seemed to dim slightly. Explain, Commander Hexstar demanded. Well, Kevin said, settling back in his chair, humans are certainly predators. But we're not apex predators. We're not even in the top 10. Earth has predators that would make your worst nightmares look like children's stories. Lisa kicked Kevin under the table, but he ignored her. There are creatures in Earth's oceans that have been hunting for 200 million years. Animals in our jungles that can kill with a single touch. Pack hunters so coordinated, they make human military units look disorganized. And predators so small you can't see them, but they've killed more humans than all our wars combined. The aliens were completely silent now. Their translator devices weren't even clicking. Kevin turned to Alex with that excited look again. Captain, I have a request. These beings have come all this way to meet humanity's great predators. I think we owe it to them to show them what Earth's real predators look like. Alex felt a headache coming on. Kevin, what exactly are you suggesting? A field trip, Kevin said simply. Let's take our new friends to Earth and introduce them to some of our planet's actual apex predators. I guarantee it will change their perspective on humanity. Commander Hexstar leaned forward, his crystal body pulsing with nervous light. You would take us to your world to face these ... greater predators? If you're willing, Kevin said. But I should warn you. After you meet Earth's real hunters, you might decide that humans are the least dangerous species on our planet. The aliens spoke among themselves in rapid clicking sounds. Their translator devices couldn't keep up with the speed of their conversation. Finally, Vexahol turned back to the humans. We will consider this proposal. But first, we must ask, if humans are not the apex predators of Earth, how did you become the dominant species? Kevin grinned. That's the interesting part. We didn't dominate Earth by being the strongest or fastest or most dangerous. We survived by being the smartest, the most adaptable, and the best at working together. Every creature on our planet has been trying to kill us for millions of years. We're still here because we're very, very good at not dying. Alex watched the aliens process this information. Their crystal bodies flickered with what might have been confusion or fear. So, Commander Hexstar said slowly, humans are not apex predators. You are ... survivors. The best survivors in the galaxy, Kevin said proudly. Alex made his decision. Commander Hexstar, Vexahol, we would be honored to show you our world. But Dr. Price is right. Earth is dangerous in ways you haven't imagined. Are you sure you want to see what we're really afraid of? The aliens looked at each other for a long moment. Finally, Vexahol spoke. We came here expecting to meet the universe's Most dangerous predators. If you are telling the truth, then we have much more to learn than we thought. Yes, we will come to your world. Show us these creatures that make humans seem harmless. Alex nodded, already wondering what they were getting themselves into. The Zephyrian ship Harmony's Edge followed Terra Nova down toward Earth's blue surface. Inside the alien vessel, 12 crystal beings huddled together, their bodies flickering with nervous light. They had agreed to see Earth's predators, but now that they were actually approaching the planet, fear filled their thoughts. Vexahol stood at the front window, watching the ocean grow larger below them. The translator around his neck clicked softly as he spoke to his companions. "The water covers most of their world," he said. "What kinds of hunters live in such darkness?" Dr. Kevin Price sat in the pilot seat of the human shuttle that would take them underwater. He had spent the last 2 days planning this trip, and he could barely contain his excitement. Next to him, Marine Sergeant Jake Collins checked the equipment one more time. Jake was a big man with calm eyes who had spent years exploring the deep ocean. "The submersible Deep Explorer is ready," Jake reported over the radio. "She can take us down to 4,000 feet safely." Captain Alex Morrison's voice came through the speaker. "Remember, Kevin, we want to educate our guests, not terrify them into never speaking to us again." Kevin smiled as he watched the Zephyrians climb awkwardly into their environmental suits. The aliens had never been underwater before. Their crystal bodies were not made for the crushing pressure of Earth's deep ocean. "Don't worry," Kevin said to Vexahol as the alien settled into his seat. "We'll start with the friendly predators." Sarah. Kim, the submersible pilot, started the engines. Sarah had been diving to the deep ocean for 15 years and knew these waters better than anyone. She guided the Deep Explorer away from the surface ships and down into the blue-black depths. First, the aliens were fascinated by the changing light. Sunlight faded from bright blue to deep green to purple and finally to complete darkness. Their crystal bodies glowed softly in the cabin, providing the only light. "How deep does this water go?" Commander Hextar asked through his translator. "In some places more than 6 miles, Sarah answered. "We're only going down about half a mile today." The aliens fell silent as they realized how much water was above them. On their homeworld, the deepest water was only a few hundred feet. The idea of miles of ocean pressing down made them cluster together even more tightly. At 1,000 feet. Kevin nodded to Sarah. She turned on the submersible's powerful lights. The water around them exploded into visibility, and the aliens saw their first Earth predator. 6 sharks glided past the submersible, each one longer than a human is tall. Their gray bodies moved with smooth power, and their black eyes reflected the lights like mirrors. The sharks showed no fear of the strange metal craft invading their territory. 6-gill sharks, Kevin explained, watching the aliens press against the windows. "They've been hunting in these waters for 200 million years. They're older than the dinosaurs." Vexahol's translator worked frantically as the aliens spoke in excited clicks. "They are so large," he finally managed to say, "and their teeth ... Each tooth is designed to cut through flesh and bone," Kevin said. "But they're not the real predators down here. They're just the welcome committee." Sarah piloted the submersible deeper, following the steep underwater mountain that rose from the ocean floor. At 2,000 feet, the water pressure was 60 times greater than at the surface. The aliens' environmental suits creaked softly under the strain. "There," Sarah said, pointing to a dark shape ahead. "Thermal vent at 2 o'clock." The submersible approached a place where hot water bubbled up from deep inside the earth. Strange tube forms as tall as trees swayed in the current, and the water shimmered with heat. Kevin activated the sonar system. The sound waves bounced back, showing the aliens what lived around the thermal vent. Hundreds of creatures moved in the darkness, most of them too strange for the Zephyrians to understand. "The real predators live here," Kevin said softly. A shadow moved near the thermal vent, and Sarah adjusted the lights to follow it. What emerged from the rocky crevice made the aliens gasp in their clicking language. The giant Pacific octopus was bigger than their submersible. 8 arms, each one 12 feet long, moved through the water with impossible grace. The creature's skin changed color and pattern as it moved, shifting from rock gray to bright red to deep purple. Intelligence, Commander Hextar whispered. Through his translator, it shows intelligence. The octopus had noticed their submersible and swam closer to investigate. It wrapped one arm around a nearby rock and used the others to probe the water currents around the strange metal visitor. Its large eyes, each one the size of a dinner plate, studied the submersible with obvious curiosity. They're problem solvers, Kevin explained. They can open jars, navigate mazes, and use tools. Some scientists think they're as smart as dolphins. The octopus demonstrated this intelligence by picking up a rock with one arm and tapping it against the submersible's hull. The metallic sound rang through the water, and the creature tilted its head to listen to the echo. It's trying to understand what we are, Sarah said with wonder in her voice. It's never seen anything like us before. But the octopus was just the beginning. Kevin had Sarah activate the submersible's deep-range sonar and the returning signals. Painted a picture that made the aliens fall completely silent. The sonar showed massive shapes, moving in coordinated patterns through the dark water. Schools of fish the size of buildings swirled and twisted together. Larger predators moved through these schools like sharks through a feeding frenzy, but these hunters were bigger than any shark. Sperm whales, Kevin said as one of the massive shapes passed overhead. 60 feet long, and they hunt giant squid in battles that can last for hours. The aliens watched the sonar display as the whale dove deeper, heading for the very bottom of the ocean where even stranger creatures waited. The Zephyrians had thought the surface world was dangerous, but the deep ocean was like another planet entirely. Jake pointed to another sonar contact. Looks like we've got company coming up from below. What rose from the depths made the octopus look small. A colossal squid, 40 feet from tip to tail, swam toward them with movements that were both beautiful and terrifying. Its tentacles were covered with hooks instead of suction cups, and its eyes were the largest eyes of any animal on Earth. It's hunting, Sarah said quietly. Look at how it moves. The giant squid used jet propulsion to shoot through the water, its tentacles trailing behind like ribbons. When it spotted a school of fish, it spread its arms wide and herded them together before striking with lightning speed. The coordination, Vexahul said, his voice filled with awe. It plans its attack, Kevin nodded. The deep ocean is full of predators like this. They hunt in 3 dimensions, in complete darkness, under crushing pressure. They've been perfecting their techniques for millions of years. Commander Hextar was quiet for a long time, watching the giant squid disappear back into the depths. Finally he spoke. These creatures ... they hunt alone? Some do, Kevin replied, but others hunt in groups. Orcas work together to take down whales 3 times their size. Some deep-sea sharks hunt in packs. Sarah began piloting the submersible back toward the surface, but the aliens barely noticed. They were too busy processing what they had seen. On our world, Commander Hextar said slowly, the largest predator is no bigger than your hand. We had no idea such creatures existed. And remember, Kevin said with a smile, we've only seen the friendly ones. The really dangerous predators live deeper than we can safely go. As they rose through the dark water toward the distant surface, Vexahul asked the question that Kevin had been waiting for. If creatures like this live in your oceans, how do humans survive? Kevin's smile grew wider. That's what makes humans special. We don't survive by being bigger or stronger than these predators. We survive by being smarter. We learn to build boats and submarines. We learn to work together. We learn to avoid the really dangerous places unless we absolutely have to go there. The aliens thought about this as the submersible broke through the surface into bright sunlight. Above them, Terra Nova waited to take them to their next destination. Where do we go now? Vexahol asked. Kevin looked at the jungle-covered land visible in the distance. Now we visit the rainforest. If you think the ocean predators are impressive, wait until you see what lives in the trees. The helicopter flew low over the Amazon rainforest, its blades cutting through the humid air. Inside, 12 Zephyrians sat in their lightweight exosuits, staring down at the endless green canopy below. From above, the jungle looked peaceful, almost boring compared to the deep ocean they had just visited. Dr. Amanda Foster checked her equipment one more time. She had spent 20 years studying rainforest animals, and she knew the jungle held more deadly predators per square mile than anywhere else on Earth. But these predators were different from the giant creatures of the deep ocean. They were smaller, smarter, and much more patient. "Landing zone ahead," called the pilot, Lieutenant Ben Torres. He set the helicopter down in a small clearing that had been cut just for this visit. The moment the engines stopped, the jungle came alive with sounds. Birds called from the trees, insects buzzed in the thick air, and somewhere in the distance, monkeys howled. Sergeant Ryan Murphy and his security team had arrived earlier to make sure the area was safe. Ryan was a quiet man who moved through the jungle like he belonged there. He had learned jungle survival from the best teachers on Earth, and he knew that the biggest dangers were often the ones you couldn't see. "Stay close to the group," Ryan told the aliens as they climbed out of the helicopter. "The jungle doesn't attack visitors. It just waits for them to make mistakes." The Zephyrians looked around nervously. Their crystal bodies were not made for the hot, wet air of the rainforest. Moisture collected on their exosuits, and the thick canopy above blocked most of the sunlight. They needed to feel comfortable. Dr. Foster led them onto a wooden walkway that had been built through the trees. The walkway was 30 feet above the ground, high enough to see the different layers of the jungle. Each layer had its own predators, its own rules, its own ways of hunting. "The first thing you need to understand," Foster said as they walked, "is that the jungle is not one place. It's many places stacked on top of each other. What hunts at the top of the trees is different from what hunts on the ground." Vexahol translated for the other aliens, but they were more interested in the sounds around them. Every noise could be a predator, and there were thousands of noises. Foster stopped at the first observation point and pointed up into the canopy. "There," she said quietly. "Do you see it?" The aliens looked where she pointed, but they saw only leaves and branches. Their crystal eyes were good at seeing light patterns, but they were not designed for spotting camouflaged animals. "I don't see anything," Commander Hextar said through his translator. Foster smiled and pulled out a pair of binoculars. She adjusted them and handed them to Vexahol. "Look at the thick branch about 50 feet up, just to the left of that big cluster of leaves." Vexahol looked through the binoculars and nearly dropped them. Perched on the branch was the largest bird he had ever seen. It was nearly 4 feet tall with a hooked beak and talons the size of bear claws. But what shocked him most was how perfectly still it sat. If Foster hadn't pointed it out, he never would have seen it. "Harpy eagle," Foster explained as the other aliens took turns with the binoculars. "It can spot a sloth from 2 miles away. Those talons can crush bones, and it flies through the jungle canopy at 60 miles per hour without making a sound." The eagle suddenly turned its head and looked directly at them. Its eyes were fierce and intelligent, the eyes of a predator that had never known fear. For several long seconds, human and alien and eagle stared at each other across the jungle. Space. Then the eagle was gone. One moment it was there, the next it had vanished into the green maze of branches and leaves. The aliens had not even seen it move. "How?" Vexahol asked, his voice filled with wonder. "Patience," Foster said. "The Harpy eagle can sit motionless for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When it moves, the hunt is already over. They continued along the walkway, and Foster showed them more of the jungle's hidden predators. A fer-de-lance snake coiled around a branch, its heat-sensing organs detecting the warm bodies of the aliens from 20 feet away. Bullet ants marched in organized lines along the tree trunks, each one carrying a sting, so painful that local people used it as a test of courage. But it was the smaller predators that really disturbed the Zephyrians. Foster knelt down and carefully moved aside some leaves to reveal an army ant column. Thousands of ants moved in perfect formation, each one knowing exactly what to do without any visible communication. They hunt together, Foster explained. A single army ant is almost helpless. But together, they can take down animals 1,000 times their size. They flow over their prey like a living river, and there's no escape. The aliens watched in fascination as the ant column changed direction. The ants at the front had found something, and the entire column shifted to follow. Within minutes, the ants had surrounded a large beetle and were carrying it away piece by piece. Cooperation, Commander Hextar said thoughtfully. Like the wild dogs you told us about. Similar, Foster agreed. But ants have been perfecting teamwork for 100 million years. Captain Danny Lee, the expedition's security chief, had been watching the aliens' reactions. He was a soldier who understood tactics, and he could see that the Zephyrians were beginning to understand something important about Earth's predators. You're starting to see the pattern, Danny said. Earth's most successful predators aren't necessarily the biggest or strongest. They're the ones that are best at working together. As the day grew hotter, Foster led them to a shaded area where they could rest and observe. The jungle around them was full of movement, but most of it was invisible. Predators and prey played an endless game of hide-and-seek in the green maze. Watch! That tree, Foster said, pointing to a massive trunk about 100 feet away. Something's hunting there. The aliens stared at the tree for several minutes, seeing nothing. Then Vexahol made a soft clicking sound of surprise. A shadow had moved, just slightly, near the base of the tree. Jaguar, Foster whispered, the top predator of the Amazon. The big cat was almost invisible against the dappled shadows of the jungle floor. Its spotted coat broke up its outline perfectly, and it moved with absolute silence. The aliens watched as the jaguar stalked something they couldn't see. It's been following a peccary for over an hour, Foster explained quietly. Jaguars don't rush their hunts. They study their prey, learn its habits, and wait for the perfect opportunity. The jaguar had several chances to attack, but each time it held back. It passed up easier prey, younger animals, anything that wasn't exactly what it wanted. The aliens began to understand that this wasn't just hunting. It was strategy. Why does it wait? Commander Hextar asked. Because it only gets one chance. Foster replied. If it misses, the prey escapes and the jaguar goes hungry, so it waits until success is almost certain. The hunt took another 2 hours. The aliens watched as the jaguar positioned itself perfectly, studied the wind direction, and calculated the exact moment to strike. When it finally moved, the attack was over in seconds. The jaguar's powerful jaws delivered a killing bite, and the hunt was complete. Precision, Vexahol said, his translator barely keeping up with his excited clicking. Not strength, not speed, but perfect precision, Foster nodded. That's what makes Earth's predators so dangerous. They don't waste energy on flashy displays or unnecessary violence. They're efficient. As the sun began to set, the jungle sounds changed. Day hunters were replaced by night hunters, and new dangers emerged from the shadows. The aliens could hear different calls, different movements in the trees around them. The night shift is taking over, Ryan said as he guided them back toward the helicopter. You don't want to be in the jungle after dark unless you know what you're doing. On the flight back to base camp, the aliens were quiet, processing what They had learned. Finally, Commander Hextar spoke. "These predators are not like us," he said. "They do not fight with weapons or technology. But they are more dangerous than our strongest warriors." Foster looked out at the jungle canopy passing below them. "They've had millions of years to perfect their techniques. Every generation gets a little better at hunting, a little better at surviving." "And humans learned from them?" Vexahol asked. "We had to," Foster replied. "Early humans weren't strong enough to fight jaguars or fast enough to escape army ants. So we learned to think like they do. We learned patience from the eagles, teamwork from the ants, and precision from the big cats. The helicopter carried them away from the jungle, but the lessons remained. The Zephyrians had seen their second group of Earth's predators, and they were beginning to understand that humans weren't the most dangerous species on their planet. Where do we go next?" Vexahol asked as the jungle disappeared behind them. Danny Lee smiled. "Africa. If you think the jungle predators are impressive, wait until you see what hunts on the savannah. That's where humans really learn to be survivors." The small aircraft flew over the endless grasslands of the Serengeti, and below them stretched the greatest wildlife show on Earth. Millions of wildebeest, zebras, and gazelles moved across the plains in long lines that went on for miles. From the air, it looked like the land itself was moving. Dr. Chris Martinez sat next to the pilot, Nicole Turner, watching the herds through binoculars. Chris had spent 15 years studying animal behavior in Africa, and he still got excited every time he saw the Great Migration. Today was special, though. He was about to show aliens something that would change how they thought about predators forever. In the back of the plane, the 12 Zephyrians pressed against the windows, their crystal bodies flickering with amazement. They had never seen so many animals in one place. Their homeworld had small creatures, but nothing like this massive movement of life across the grasslands. "How many animals are down there?" Vexahol asked through his translator. "About 2 million, Chris replied. "They follow the rains and the fresh grass in a circle that takes them a full year to complete." Commander Hextar watched a group of lions resting in the shade of an acacia tree. Even from the air, the big cats looked powerful and dangerous. "Those are the apex predators?" Chris smiled. "Some of them. But the lions aren't what I want to show you today." Nicole banked the aircraft toward a section of the plains where the grass was shorter. Here, scattered groups of animals grazed peacefully, unaware of what was about to happen. Chris had been tracking one particular pack of predators for 3 days, waiting for the perfect moment to show the aliens something special. "There," Chris said, pointing down to a group of spotted animals moving through the grass. "African wild dogs. The most successful pack hunters on the continent." The aliens looked down at the dogs and seemed disappointed. Compared to the massive lions or the giant ocean creatures they had seen, the wild dogs looked ordinary. They were about the size of medium dogs, with large ears and patchy coats. "They seemed small," Vexahol observed. "Size isn't everything," Chris said. "Watch what they do." Nicole circled the aircraft so they could observe the wild dogs beginning their evening hunt. There were 12 dogs in the pack, and they moved with purpose across the grassland. But they weren't rushing toward their prey. Instead, they spread out in a wide line, each dog knowing exactly where to go without any visible signals. The target was a herd of impala, graceful antelopes that could run faster than any single predator. The impala were alert and nervous, sensing danger but not sure where it would come from. "Notice how they position themselves," Chris said as the aliens watched through binoculars. "Each dog has a job. Some will chase, others will cut off escape routes, and a few will wait in reserve." The hunt began slowly. One dog showed itself to the impala herd, causing them to bunch together nervously. The other dogs remained hidden in the grass, waiting. This wasn't the sudden violent attack the aliens had expected. It was more like a carefully planned military operation. "They're thinking," Commander Hexstar said with surprise. "They have a strategy." The visible dog began to trot toward the Impala, not running at full speed, but applying steady pressure. The herd started to move, and that's when the alien saw the brilliance of the pack's plan. The Impala were being herded directly toward where the other dogs waited in hiding. "Coordination," Chris explained. "No single dog could catch a healthy Impala. But working together, they can guide their prey exactly where they want it to go." The chase that followed lasted 3 hours and covered 15 miles. The aliens watched in fascination as individual dogs took turns leading the pursuit. When one dog got tired, another would take over, keeping constant pressure on their chosen target. The Impala was faster than any dog, but it couldn't run at top speed for hours. "This is persistence hunting," Chris said. "The same technique humans used. We couldn't outrun our prey, but we could outlast it." Staff Sergeant Maria Santos, who had been quietly observing the aliens' reactions, moved closer to the window. Maria was a soldier who understood tactical operations, and she could see that the Zephyrians were finally grasping something important. "Your species hunts alone, doesn't it?" Maria asked through the translator. Commander Hexstar nodded. "Zephyrians are individual hunters. We compete with each other for resources. That's why Earth predators seem so dangerous to you," Maria said. "You've never seen cooperation like this." The wild dog pack demonstrated teamwork that impressed even the human observers. When the chosen Impala tried to rejoin the main herd, 2 dogs appeared from different directions to block its path. When it tried to escape into thick brush, another dog was already waiting there. The pack anticipated every move their prey might make. 80% success rate, Chris said as the hunt neared its end. Lions only succeed about 25% of the time. Cheetahs are even lower. But wild dogs almost never fail when they hunt as a pack. The final moments of the hunt showed the aliens something that would stay with them forever. When the exhausted Impala finally stumbled, the entire pack converged instantly. But there was no fighting over the kill. Each dog had its place in the feeding order, and they shared the meal according to strict social rules. "They take care of each other," Vexahol said, watching through the binoculars. "The hunters feed the pack members who stayed behind to guard the den, including the young, the old, and the injured," Chris added. "No dog is left out. The pack survives together or dies together." As the aircraft turned toward the base camp, Commander Hexstar asked the question that Chris had been waiting for. "How did humans learn to hunt like this?" "By watching packs like that one," Chris replied. "Early humans weren't strong enough to take down large prey alone. We weren't fast enough to chase down healthy animals. But we learned to work together, to plan ahead, and to share resources with the group." Nicole flew them over a Maasai village, where the local people were driving their cattle home for the evening. The aliens could see humans and animals living side by side, neither dominating the other but finding ways to coexist. "Those people have lived with Africa's predators for thousands of years," Maria said. "They survive by understanding how the ecosystem works, not by trying to control it." The aircraft landed at the research station as the sun was setting. The aliens climbed out slowly, their crystal bodies dim with exhaustion and deep thought. They had seen 3 different environments now, and each one had taught them something new about Earth's predators. Dr. Foster, who had flown in from the Amazon, met them at the landing pad. How did they react to the wild dogs? "I think they're beginning to understand," Chris said, watching the aliens huddle together in conference. "They're realizing that success on Earth isn't about being the biggest predator. It's about being the smartest." The aliens spoke among themselves in their clicking language for almost an hour. Finally, Vexahol approached the human team. "We have been discussing what we have seen," he said through his translator. "On our world, the strongest individual survives. But on Earth, The strongest group survives. That's right, Chris said. And humans learned that lesson better than any other species. We became the ultimate pack hunters. Commander Hexstar looked thoughtful. But if humans are such effective pack hunters, why are you not more dangerous than the other predators we have seen? Maria stepped forward. Because we learned something else from watching Earth's predators. We learned when not to hunt. The wild dogs could kill everything on the savannah if they wanted to, Chris added. But they don't. They take only what they need and leave the rest of the ecosystem alone. Humans had to learn the same lesson, or we would have destroyed our own planet. The aliens were quiet for a long time, processing this information. Finally, Vexahul spoke again. We thought humans were dangerous because you are predators. But you are dangerous because you are survivors who learn to work together. Exactly, Chris said. And tomorrow, you'll see how that cooperation extends. Beyond just hunting, Dr. Price has something special planned for your final lesson. As the stars came out over the African plains, the aliens looked up at the night sky and thought about their own world. They had come to Earth expecting to meet the galaxy's most dangerous predators. Instead, they were learning about cooperation, patience, and the wisdom to know when to fight and when to work together. What is our final lesson? Commander Hexstar asked. Chris smiled mysteriously. You'll see. But I guarantee it will be the most surprising one yet. The Marine Biology Institute in California looked peaceful in the morning sunlight. Palm trees swayed in the ocean breeze, and the building seemed too quiet and normal for the aliens' final lesson about Earth's predators. The Zephyrians had seen giant sea monsters, patient jungle hunters, and coordinated pack predators. What could this simple human building possibly show them? Dr. Kevin Price led the group through the Institute's clean white hallways. Behind him walked the 12 aliens, their crystal bodies still flickering with nervous energy from everything they had witnessed. Captain Alex Morrison and the other human team members followed quietly, knowing that this final lesson would be the most important one. I know this seems ordinary, Kevin said as they walked past laboratories full of scientific equipment. But you're about to meet Earth's true apex predators, the ones that have shaped every living thing on our planet. They stopped at a laboratory where Dr. Katie Russell was waiting for them. Katie was a small woman with quick movements and bright eyes who specialized in studying the smallest forms of life on Earth. Her laboratory was filled with microscopes, computers, and machines that the aliens didn't recognize. Welcome, Katie said to the Zephyrians. I'm going to show you something that might surprise you. Tell me, what do you think is the most successful predator species on Earth? Vexahul translated the question for the other aliens, and they discussed it in their clicking language. Finally, Commander Hexstar answered. Based on what we have seen, perhaps the wild dogs? Their cooperation gives them great success in hunting. Katie smiled and shook her head. Wild dogs are impressive, but they're not even close. The most successful predators on Earth are so small you can't see them without special equipment. She led them to a large microscope connected to a computer screen. This is a sample of ocean water from just outside this building. Normal, everyday seawater that looks completely empty. Katie adjusted the microscope, and suddenly the screen filled with life. Tiny creatures swam and darted through the water. Some shaped like spirals, others like perfect spheres, and many that looked like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Bacteria and viruses, Katie explained. They've been hunting for 3.5 billion years. Every drop of water contains millions of them. The aliens stared at the screen in shock. The tiny creatures moved with purpose, attacking each other, consuming each other, and reproducing faster than the aliens could follow. These organisms hunt every living thing on Earth, Katie continued. They hunt whales, they hunt sharks, they hunt eagles and jaguars, and they hunt humans. Commander Hexstar leaned closer to the screen. They are so small. How can they be dangerous? Katie switched to another sample, this one from human blood. The screen showed different types of cells moving through liquid, but some of them looked wrong. They were misshapen, moving erratically, clearly under attack by invisible enemies. Every human being is constantly at war, Katie said. Right now as we speak, your bodies are being attacked by billions of these microscopic predators. Your immune system is fighting battles in your bloodstream, in your organs, in every part of your body. The aliens fell completely silent. This was beyond anything they had imagined. They had worried about humans being dangerous predators, but humans were actually prey animals being constantly hunted by creatures too small to see. How do you survive? Vexahol asked, his voice filled with wonder. Dr. Price stepped forward. That's the amazing part. We don't just survive. We've learned to fight back. Katie switched to another slide, this one showing human white blood cells attacking bacteria. The aliens watched as the much larger immune cells surrounded and destroyed the invading microorganisms. Evolution, Katie explained. For billions of years, these tiny predators have been trying to kill us, and we've been developing better defenses. It's an arms race that never ends. Captain Morrison moved closer to the screen, but that's not the most impressive part. Show them the really clever stuff, Katie. Katie brought up a new image on the screen. This one showed viruses, but these viruses were different. They were attacking bacteria instead of human cells. We learned to turn predators against each other, Katie said with pride in her voice. These are bacteriophages, viruses that hunt bacteria. We use them as medicine to fight infections. The aliens were amazed. Humans had not only survived being hunted by microscopic predators, they had learned to weaponize some predators against others. It gets better, Dr. Price said. Show them the vaccine samples. Katie pulled up images of modified viruses and bacteria that had been changed by human scientists. We take dangerous predators and modify them so they can't hurt us. Then we inject them into our bodies to train our immune systems to fight the real threats. Commander Hextar's crystal body pulsed with confused light. You deliberately put predators into your bodies? Safe versions of them, Katie corrected. It's like training for war. We expose ourselves to weakened enemies so we can learn to fight the strong ones. The aliens spoke among themselves in rapid clicking sounds. This was beyond their understanding. On their homeworld, the biggest threat was other Zephyrians competing for resources. They had never faced constant attack from invisible enemies. There's one more thing, Dr. Price said quietly. The most important thing. Katie brought up a final image on the screen. This one showed a complex diagram of genetic information, long chains of data that represented the building blocks of life itself. These microscopic predators don't just hunt us, Katie explained. They change us. Every time they attack, some of them transfer genetic information into our cells. Over millions of years, they've actually become part of us. The screen showed human DNA, but highlighted sections revealed genetic material that had originally come from viruses and bacteria. 8% of human genetic code came from ancient viral infections, Katie said. These predators didn't just try to kill our ancestors, they became part of our ancestors. Vexahol's translator worked frantically as the aliens tried to process this information. Finally, he managed to speak. The predators became, part of us, Dr. Price corrected. And that's what makes humans special. We didn't become apex predators by being bigger or stronger or more aggressive than everything else. We became survivors by adapting to constant attack from every direction. Captain Morrison stepped forward, looking directly at Commander Hextar. You came here thinking humans were dangerous because we're predators, but you had it backwards. We're remarkable because we're prey. Everything on our planet has been trying to kill us for millions of years, Dr. Price added. Giant predators. In the ocean, patient hunters in the jungle, pack hunters on the plains. and billions of microscopic enemies in our own bodies. We survived by learning from all of them. Katie gestured to the microscope. The sharks taught us about persistence. The octopuses taught us about intelligence. The army ants taught us about cooperation. The wild dogs taught us about teamwork. And these tiny predators taught us about adaptation and change. Commander Hextar was quiet for a long time, staring at the screen full of microscopic life. Finally he spoke. On our world, we thought we were advanced because we had no natural enemies. We became the dominant species because nothing else challenged. U.S., that made you powerful, Dr. Price said. But it didn't make you survivors. Humans became what we are because our planet never stopped trying to kill us, Captain Morrison added. Every generation had to be smarter, more adaptable, and better at working together than the one before. The aliens spent the rest of the day in Katie's laboratory, learning about the invisible war that raged in every drop of water, every breath of air, and every living cell on Earth. They saw how humans had not only survived this war, but had learned to use it to their advantage. As the sun set, the Zephyrian delegation gathered for their final meeting with the human team. Commander Hextar spoke for all of them. We came to Earth expecting to meet the galaxy's most dangerous predators, he said through Vexahol's translator. Instead, we discovered the galaxy's greatest survivors. We were afraid you would conquer our worlds because you are apex predators, Vexahol added. Now we understand that you survived on a world where you were never the apex predator. Captain. Morrison smiled. Every challenge made us stronger. Every threat taught us something new. That's why we want to explore the galaxy, not to conquer it, but to see what other challenges are out there. Commander Hextar's crystal body glowed with what the humans had learned was respect. We will return to the collective with a new message. Humanity is not to be feared as conquerors. You are to be valued as allies, because if you can survive Earth, you can survive anything the galaxy has to offer. As the Zephyrian ship prepared to leave Earth's orbit, Vexahol sent one final message. To the human team. Thank you for showing us that the greatest predators and the greatest survivors are not the same thing. We hope our species can learn from yours. The alien ship disappeared into the stars, carrying with it a new understanding of humanity's place in the universe. Humans weren't dangerous because they were predators. They were remarkable because they had learned to thrive in a world where everything else was the predator.